Welcome to this Exemplar Global Food Safety Expo presentation presented by Chad Keimel of Omnex. Chad Keimel is the Chief Technology Officer and founder of Omnex, an international consulting and training organization headquartered in the United States. After graduating from the General Motors Institute, Chad spent a number of years working at General Motors and KPMG before founding Omnex in 1986. Omnex has been involved in innovation of the application of HACCP using failure mode and effects analysis and control plans with integrated quality and food safety combined. Omnex implements customer-focused key measurables, phase gate new product development, integrated food, quality, environmental, and health and safety management systems, and a disciplined problem-solving methods in organizations which produce food. Chad is a certified lead auditor who has conducted hundreds of audits, including multiple audits in food safety management systems. Chad was the founder and president of AQSR, an international certification body, for more than 10 years. Chad is HACCP and SQF certified, and he's published numerous papers and more than 3 books on the subjects of management standards and quality. He is the author of 3 books on quality standards, including 2 on the auditing process. Chad, take it away.
Scott, thank you very much. Welcome, everyone. So the topic today, what we'll talk about is integrated management systems. If you have been following me, you probably saw the first paper that I wrote in 2006. And I wrote it about in Quality Digest about juggling multiple standards. And I wrote it about implementation we had actually done in 2002, where we integrated, environmental management systems and quality standards. Fast forward, maybe half a dozen years ago, when FSSC 22000 first came, we did a major implementation for one of the largest food manufacturers in the world. We did a food safety, quality, environmental, and health and safety integrated implementation. So folks, for those of us in the food industry, let me just say this: the large food manufacturers are integrating food safety with quality. In fact, we have trained 2 large registrars in both food safety and quality, in terms of the lead auditors trying to become certified to audit both. But the opportunities don't stop there. It is my encouragement for those of you listening in that the small companies and the medium-sized organizations also can operate in a professional manner, integrating food safety, quality, environmental, health and safety. And let me tell you this, we're actually adding IT security. And if you see what we have done in other venues, you probably saw us also integrate in social responsibility. Everybody can implement the standards, including Omnex, that has certified itself to these. Actually, we don't do food safety, but for Omnex, we do quality, environmental, health and safety, and IT security standards. All right. We don't do food safety in the meaning that we don't manufacture food, package food, or do logistics with food. Okay, let's go on. So just a quick introduction to Omnex along the way in terms of starting this seminar. We're founded in 1985, 33 years in the business. We do work with a lot of different standards. In fact, all of the standards we're talking about today, not only food safety in FSSC 22000, but also the other 2 standards which are very popular, BRC and SQF. Of course, all of them integrate into 9001 and 14001, 9001 being QMS, 14001 being Environmental Management System, and 45001 being Health and Safety. Of all these, maybe FSSC 22000 integrates the best because it incorporates in it ISO 22000, which, as we all know, follows the same what is called a high-level structure. So Omnex, we are about 800 employees working in 30 different countries. We're in about 15 different global settings, organized as offices globally. Of course, we have consultants in over 30 different countries because we have to do these global training and implementations for some of our customers who are in many, many different locations. All right. So Scott has already introduced me, and I've had the good fortune of working in the industry now for 40 some years, implementing many, many different standards. So today, the topic is integrated management systems with food safety, quality, environmental, health and safety, and IT security standards. Folks, the talk I'm about to do today is based on a book I wrote for the American Society for Quality on integrated management systems. In fact, I have a chapter on 5 different types of implementations I've done, or we have done, from aerospace, automotive, semiconductors, electronics, and food safety. I carefully picked several different case studies to make sure everybody understands, yes, you can integrate. All right, here's the agenda today. Why integrated management systems? What is it? And I'll be along the way mentioning to you the process approach is key to the integration. So we'll talk about the process approach. We'll talk about best-in-class integrated management systems, enterprise performance measurement, and then we'll finish up. Let's start with understanding why IMS, or the rationale for IMS. So let's say here, there are 4 drivers that are driving integrated management systems. One is what is called the Annex SL from ISO itself. The ISO, the International Organization for Standardization, based in Geneva, Switzerland, has seen this proliferation of global standards, and they decided, hey, you know what? Definitions are different. The structure is different. We're really confusing the public. So because of that, they have created something called Annex SL, which is a high-level structure that all these management system standards need to follow. And they did it purposefully with the idea of integration. And since I have a number of auditors here listening in, folks, I encourage you to look at Leadership 5.0. And in that 5.1 section, you will see a requirement for leadership to integrate in the processes of whatever standard you're looking at into the business processes of the organization. De facto, what the Annex SL and ISO are requiring is that organization integrate. So why IMS? Number 1, the high-level structure. Number 2, this proliferation of standards that we're trying to make easy to implement with IMS. Third is the rising costs of implementation and maintenance. And fourth, what we call the challenge of the enterprise. Folks, in this short 1 hour, I'm not going to be able to talk to you about all of these, but let me just mention to you, if you're a global organization, or even if you have 3 plants in the US, you have the task of trying to introduce in similar processes, working cultures, similar results, and how you do that is through an integrated management system. So why? Because of these 4 forces. And next what we'll do, I'll say one more thing, which I don't in the last slide. Let me just say it right now, it saves money. I'm going to tell you that in the end, but might as well tell you right now why you should be interested in an integrated management system. It saves implementation costs, it saves the maintenance of these systems, and it saves on auditing costs. All right, what is it? Now you're here, you probably will find, see many different types of definitions. Here is how we define it at Omnex and from my book. By the way, I shouldn't say just my book. I wrote it along with Mr. Greg Ruska. Some of you might know Greg. He is the author of many different standards in the automotive industry, or participated in committees for MSA, SPC, FMEA, and so on. And Mr. Dan Reed, who is most famous for being the international or ATF, Automotive Task Force, now the IATF leader from the General Motors, and helping write that standard along with many different standards that he has been a part of. So all three of us wrote this book on IMS, and here's how we define an integrated management system. Number one, integrated processes. Number two, integrated risk. And third is integrated audits. By the way, when companies contact Omnex or myself on integrated management systems, the first thing they ask is to do integrated audits. And then we have to inform them, look, unless you have an integrated management system implemented, meaning integrated processes, you cannot do an integrated audit. Well, think about that. All right. So the integration then is in three places. One is integrated processes. And by the way, this is the value chain or the product realization process. And down below are the support process of the organization. And you also see here management processes like planning and so on, all the way through. These are all the things from the standard all the way through. So these processes need to satisfy the requirements of the standard, okay? And so integration starts with the process approach or in the process map of the organization. Point two. By the way, Omnex was not the first to talk about integrating quality risk and food safety risk. One of the most popular food safety standards, SQF, a version of the GFSI standards, has been doing this for a while, where they say a HACCP can have both quality and safety risks, right? And we just go one step further and we say you can integrate in QMS, environmental, health and safety, and food safety into a common methodology with common teams. Then, of course, what everybody wants to do, integrated audits. The idea is using one common audit process and an audit program for what we call generically QEHS or FSMS, right? Meaning, a quality, environmental, health and safety, and food safety management systems. What does the audit process do? Use an integrated audit checklist and an audit team capable of auditing the integrated system. Of course, this audit process could be auditing the processes and the performance of these processes. All right, very good. What are people doing today? What we find that people are doing today is they have silos. Well, in the food industry, people are not doing too many standards, but in the large organizations that have implemented multiple standards, you see this ISO 9001 manual, procedures, work instructions, and then you see food safety manual, processes, procedures, right? And we call them standalone processes. What do we say? Standalone implementations mean more work and it's more expensive. So what do we say? Integrated in. When we say integration of the procedure, we mean one procedure satisfies both quality and food safety, for example. Let me say this. What I like to tell companies is, all these shalls, this is the way I look at the Q, the E, the HS, the FSMS, all these shalls from all these standards come and impact my organization, which is made up of these business processes that I document in the process map. I do what I do through these business processes. I manufacture food, I package, I deliver, logistically, food products, but I am these set of processes. I'm not quality processes or environmental processes or health and safety processes. So the processes and the business I do remains the same. When these shalls come in, I either perform the shall or mandatory requirement, or I have to change a process to meet that shall, or I'll find out I don't have a process for that shall. Okay? Does that make sense? Anyhow, the same processes and procedures need to satisfy Q, E, HS, and FSMS. And then what do you have? You may have work instructions supporting these processes and procedures, and you definitely need forms and checklists that turn into records, which show the evidence that our company is following this integrated management system. So what did we draw this picture for? To show you lack of integration runs horizontally, lack of standardization runs vertically. All right? So here is a company with a food manufacturer with sales and distribution, a warehouse, and a second plant X, all with no integration and no standardization. And the point here is you need to integrate and standardize. Integration refers to standalone systems, and standardization refers to this, every entity in the organization having its own processes. Okay? So you save money by not only integrating, but you also save by standardization. Folks, you don't hear anybody talking about integration and standardization. Please take it to heart that not only integration is important, standardizing business processes in the enterprise, meaning between plant one, sales and distribution, and warehouse, is critical and key. Now, we all know plant one and sales and distribution, manufacturing and distribution is completely different. But the auditing process could be the same. The objective setting process could be the same. The business review process could be the same. The risks and hazard for food safety could be the same. You understand? So a lot of commonality, and we should ensure that an integrated management system also is not only integrated, but standardized. Just to cite a couple of papers and a book that I mentioned to you. It's a little picture of the book that Greg, Dan, and I wrote. So rationale for integration and standardization, here's a standalone system, 4 sites, 3 management systems, okay? Pick any 3 of those management systems, 12 management systems. Average 500 documents times 4, 6,000 documents. They have 50 process owners per site, so it's a slightly larger company, okay? Maybe a couple of hundred people. 50 process owners times 4, 200 process owners. That what happens when you integrate and standardize? You really have one integrated management system, meaning one documentation system with 500 documents. Now, the world is not perfect. You may not end up with from 2,000 to 500. You may end up from 2,000 to 800. But theoretically, let's say 500. And then one set of process owners for the entire enterprise. Just imagine the cost has gone down significantly if we go from 200 process owners to 50 process owners, from, let's say, X number of processes, 1,200 processes, to maybe 100 global processes. So why 1,200? Well, you have 12 management systems here, right? 12 management systems, and let's say there's 100 processes in each, 1,200 versus when you integrate 100 processes. All right, let's move on. What do you get with integration? Focus. You get one, I always say how confused the company should be when you have you know, a management review for food, a management review for quality, a management review for environmental, and a management review for health and safety. How confused they should be when you do risk 4 times. How confused they should be when you do document management, training competence, internal audits 4 times. And of course, with that focus comes efficiency and then effectiveness of that organization. I hopefully have you sold right here, but really the savings, folks, is in the maintenance of these systems drops by 50%. The implementation, if you're implementing it the first time, drops by 50%. Actually, we say 66%, okay? And 66%, not just 50%. And then the registrar cost goes down by 20%. So continuing on with this integrated management system, as I mentioned to you, integrated management systems means integrated processes, integrated risk, integrated audits. So it behooves us to talk a little bit about the process approach, the first set of integration. So here is the idea of the process map, which is key to the integration. And these same set of business processes need to satisfy all the shells of the Q, the E, the HS, and the FSMS. And as I said earlier, we do believe you need to take a look at IT security. IT security is incredibly key. And folks, everybody's implementing it. If you don't let them know they should integrate it into the company, boom, you'll have a standalone system and all this extra work because of the standalone system. By the way, ISO 27000 follows what we call the high-level structure, okay? And then, of course, we also recommend social responsibility, that we really don't have a standard for implementing. There is a guidance standard, ISO 26000. So all of these are near and dear to my heart, and I think it's really important we integrate in Q, HS, E for environmental, FSMS for food safety, IT security, and social responsibility. If we don't, the problem will be, where people are repeating the same processes in all 6 of these. Or in social responsibilities viewpoint, it having no teeth in the program, it'll just be claims that will not be backed up by processes. So what is a process map? Process maps document the processes in an enterprise. It provides a uniform way to run the business. It allows linkages of key measurables and process measurables. So the process maps are process measurables, and when processes work together, you get the key performance indicator or the results. So it links the results, and the processes are linked for the company performance. Omnex implements a process called BOS that explains how to do that. So why have this standardized process map for the entire organization? A uniform look and feel in the organization for its customers and its suppliers. And the people working there can move from plant to plant and understand how things are done. So coming out of a couple of different key industries is this idea and importance of customer-oriented processes and key interested parties focused processes. And these processes interact with important interested parties, so we need to keep an eye out for them. All right, we have the process map, and then every process in the process map gets documented through a flow. Here's a flow for document management, for example. And the idea of integrated management systems didn't just come to me just like that. I was doing an implementation for quality in this very large organization that also had environmental management systems and health and safety. They're a European company, and I was working in California in this, what they call this, what do they call that? Campus is what the large electronics companies call the 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 person campuses. They had 12 business lines, and the business lines had little management groups. What do they call the management groups? With the management group looking after different lines of their business. There was about 60 of them in this, 4,000, 5,000 person campus. And I saw document control, uh, proliferated 60 times, internal audit process proliferated 60 times, and so on. And I realized they were all copying from each other, but copying from each other and then changing it. What a tough way to get, integration or standardization. All right. So let's move on towards the tail end of this presentation, talk about best-in-class integrated management systems. What do best-in-class integration systems have? Integrated and standardized management systems, integrated risks, and integrated audits. I already mentioned that you right up front, the 3 pillars. Then we believe you need to integrate and standardize these, we left out food safety here, Q 3, 4, 5, 6 different standards. And then implementation of KPIs. So where we talk about business operating system, and also another very key concept I'm trying to encourage, along with a writer, a friend of mine, Dr. Wayne Visser, the net positive, net zero. I'll talk more about that when I get there. Then, of course, Omnex believes a great deal for integrated management system software. As you know, I'm very active, and actually our Omnex system software has integrated management system software that we call EWQIMS. So these are very important ideas that I have championed, not just recently, folks, for more than 30 years. So here's the idea of the 3 pillars with integrated processes, integrated risk, and integrated audits. I started with that. We're ending with that now. The idea of standardization. This is a part of being best in class. And then enterprise performance measurement. So, I may or may not have told you that in 1993, I spent a whole year with Ford Motor Company writing a methodology for linking processes and results. We actually at that time called it process measurables for the processes in your process map. And we called the key measurables, these result measurables, like quality, PPM, delivery, on-time delivery, cost, and so on, are all results. And well, instead of going in that direction, let me tell you, top management and the organization need to focus on 12 to 16 key metrics or key measurables. These are the vital few measurables that top management should be looking at. And then you need to have a methodology. Omnex has this BOS methodology to drive customer-focused and interested party-focused expectations through linked goals and objectives throughout the organization. Standardized business reviews, visual management of key measurables, and what we said is, a trend chart with goals and objectives. If you follow the Malcolm Baldrige approach, you'd have 3 years of averages on the side and this year's by month, and a goal line coming from QoS. Very important to have a trend chart with a Pareto and a status report in all your meetings. And of course, the all-important action plan. And using these same key measurables in business reviews to satisfy management review responsibility. Meaning, you don't do a management review for the registrar or the auditor, you need to do this management review for the business. You should not have a business review and then a management review for us auditors. It doesn't make sense. All right. Then, of course, the different standards require us to measure process measurables, and we need to have process measurable that drives the key measurables. Here is the picture of the boss, and the idea is that the context of the organization, 4.1, interested party expectations, 4.2. Since we're all auditors here, let me just use the clause numbers. And the mission, vision, policies drive the intended results or the outcomes and the goals and objectives. Okay? Of course, the organization needs to understand that goals and objectives are nothing but the intended outcomes of the management system. Then what do? You measure these key performance indicators, and you review it in your management review or business review. And what do you know? That you can't achieve results unless you manage processes. So you have process measurables with the improvement opportunities, and the risk analysis are on process measurables. And then you have improvement actions, which are a continual improvement. Another very important concept for best in class, the idea of net zero and net positive. And this is what we wrote. We've written in a couple of papers. You can see here, integrated value. At the time, Dr. Whizzer or Wayne was at Oxford. Now he's a chair. I forget the university he's a chair of. I've written a couple of papers with him, and I know that he is so interested in the idea of integrated value. His chairmanship is called Integrated Value Chairmanship in a university in the Netherlands. And we defined what we call 10 different zero metrics. Q, zero defects, zero accidents for safety, zero missed customer commitments, along with it is delivery, zero energy, zero carbon, zero water, zero waste, sustainability, zero human rights violations, zero labor infringements, zero corruption for social responsibility. So this net zero, net positive, as we like to say, is not only for zero defects. Folks, if you're in the automotive industry, you heard Scott mention, I started out in the automotive industry, and I've been working in the automotive industry for the last 30 some years. Our key customers, our large first-tier customers we're working with, have gone down to below 10 ppm. In fact, ppm is no longer a metric for some large OEMs like General Motors. So we can achieve this idea of zero in quality. We know we can achieve it in quality, environmental, health and safety, social responsibility, IT security. And this is what we mean by net zero, net positive. And of course, this is the alignment chart that takes in customer expectations and interested party expectations, identifying objectives, identifying the result measurable or the KPI, and the key processes and process measurables. This is what we call alignment, and these have to align. Folks, I use this as a technique for auditing also. The alignment needs to be there, or fundamentally there is a structural issue in their performance measurement process. And then, this is not a requirement of any standard, but the idea is to have an organized way to present what you're measuring. And a lot of people use control plans for measuring the manufacturing plant. Why not use the same idea to measure the KPIs and the process measurables, right? Where do you review it? What is the review frequency? What is the control method? And so on. You like that? Well, not a requirement, but we're talking about best in class here. And then finishing up with this concept of best in class, we have software with electronic workflows. You need to have electronic workflows that actually integrate in these standards, integrated document control, audits, training, and competency. I have a list a little bit later, but you need to have software that has an integrated management systems functionality, or I might mention, really, the requirements are a high-level structure. Then you need to have functionality for new product development. For best in class, things like advanced product quality planning and PPAP. Today, I might add agile into it and into the new product development process. And of course, Omnex is promoting agile APQP. So, to be able to do quick spins and release products without waiting for years to come up with the product. So functionality for new product development, and then supply chain functionality. I happen to be in a couple of different tags or technical advisory committees for the US government. I'm on the TC 176, ISO 9001, the TC 207 for environmental management systems, and the TC 283 for health and safety. I'm also on the medical devices as a second. What am I trying to say? Well, I just happen to be on the US representative on a standard called ISO 10013, which is about documentation for ISO 9001 or the QMS. It can be used for any standard, but we're introducing the idea of electronic workflows. And here is a set of electronic workflows we think, or I think, Omnex thinks, and we're incorporating into the standards so everybody understands a good way to implement and standardize and bring in discipline is by electronic workflows. Coming to a summary, IMS is made up of integrated processes, integrated risks, and integrated audits. Number one. Integration is focused on the management systems, and the standardization is about having the same or similar processes globally. Okay? So I'd like you, as you finish this presentation, understand integration versus standardization. And then that best-in-class IMS implementations have integrated and standardized management systems, integrated risks, integrated audits, that they also have integration and standardization in QMS, EMS, OSHAs, IT security, social responsibility, and food safety. Who has implemented it? Actually, Omnex has implemented it for ourselves. And then implementation of KPIs for net zero, net positive, and an integrated business operating system that aligns key performance indicators, objectives, context, and interested party expectation. And then most importantly, by the way, this is software that Omnex Systems, one of Omnex's own companies, has, and we ourselves inside Omnex, as we implemented our integrated management system, are using it to standardize our 15 global offices worldwide. So integration and standardization, and very importantly, having electronic workflows. Folks, with that, thank you all very much for this opportunity to present in front of you. I hope you have gotten understanding about IMS through this seminar. Thank you very much, Scott. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Chad. Excellent presentation. I want to thank you all for your time and attention. I'm sure you can tell that Chad is passionate about this topic, and his many, many years of experience definitely shine through here. Thanks again, Chad, and thank you all for joining us. Goodbye.